Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Medici from Steamforged Games. Medici is a 2-to-6 player auction game designed by Reiner Knizia that's actually a classic that's been around for quite some time, been through a variety of publishers, and the most recent one is Steamforged Games. In this game, across 3 rounds of play, players are going to be bidding on various goods, and they're trying to do so to score points, but you're going to be scoring points from 2 different things. The first thing you're going to be scoring points from is the total value of your goods, and we'll come to the bidding in a second, we'll walk through how that works, but the general idea is if you go ahead and look at your own personal pools at the end of the game, if this player has, those resources over here, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, that's a total value of 6, 12 points worth of resources. And if this player has, let's put these out over here, if they have, that's actually going to go ahead and beat that. If they have these 15, 21 total value resources versus the 12 over here, then they're going to score more points based on the player count. Right now we have a 3-player game set up over here. Whoever has the highest total value of their goods will get 30 points, then 15, then 0. And this track over here is going to show you the distribution for each player count. But that's a lot of points. If you can have the highest total value of goods, you're going to get more points than other players from that alone. But you're also going to be scoring each of the 5 tracks in the game. There are 5 tracks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of these is going to score differently. Each of them is going to score in the same way, but you're going to count them all differently. And the way these tracks are going to score is the person who's the highest and the lowest, well, the highest and the second highest in these tracks will score points. So in a 3+ player game, highest will get 10 points and second place will get 5 points, which means if this is where the tracks were over here right now, then you'd have red scoring 10 points, you'd have yellow scoring 5, and blue would score nothing. If there are ties, you're going to distribute the points evenly, rounded down amongst the players. So right now you know that you want 2 things. You want the highest total value of cards, and you also want to move up these tracks, which brings us, how do we move up these tracks? The way you move with the tracks is simply by having cards in that color. So for right now, if this were the end of the first round in a game, then right now the blue over here would go up 3 gray. You're not going to go ahead and look at the total value. You're just going to count the gray cards you have. On the gray track, blue's going to move up 3. Meanwhile, yellow over here is going to be moving up 2 red. Let's go ahead and move yellow up 2 red over here. There we go. They're going to be moving up. This gold card is actually not going to move you up any track, but it does give you 10, so it's a bit of a trade-off if you think you want that or not. Over here, we're going to go ahead and move this one up. We're going to move this up 1 for yellow, and then we'll move up green for yellow as well. Meanwhile, blue, we already moved up 3 gray. We'll move up 1 over here, and then 1 there. And then each of these tracks would score for the 10 and 5 points for whoever has the highest and second highest on each track. Now, you're going to be doing this in each round, and as the rounds go on, you're going to find yourself moving up further and further on these tracks, and eventually you may find that you've moved over here or over here, in which case you'll get those bonus points as well. So you're effectively going to score for whoever's highest and second highest, but also the place where your marker is going to score you bonus points, which means if you do focus on moving up a single track or 2 in the game, you can get a bunch of extra bonus points just for being higher. 20 bonus points is not a small amount of points, and it also lets you go ahead and focus on getting the most value in goods. So that's what you're trying to do. In each round, you're trying to go ahead and move up these tracks to be able to get first or second place as well as bonus points. You're also trying to get the highest value of your goods so you can score for this chart over here. That's basically how you play the game. Now, how do you actually get those cards? That's where the auction phase is going to come out. You see, each round, players are going to take turns being the dealer, effectively. So right now, for example, I would go ahead, let me shuffle up a stack over here. Let's pretend I'm the current dealer for this round. I'm going to go ahead and play 1 card. Now I can keep going, and in this case I am going to keep going. I'm going to play another card, and let's go ahead and play 1 more. Basically, you can play up to 3 cards. You can play over here. This is, by the way, this is very, very high. This is a good time for me to go last because it puts the pressure on other players. Basically, the dealer can deal 1, 2, 3 cards, and there's reasons why you want to deal different amounts. For right now, I went with 3, and then the player to my left gets to start the bid, and they're effectively bidding points. Everything you get in this game is going to give you points, but when you bid, you are bidding points to go ahead and get sets of cards. Now this 4, 5, and 5 is a great start to all but guarantee that whoever wins this hand is well set up to get the 30 points over here, which means giving up 15 points is not even crazy to lock in those 30 and not only get them for yourself, but deny other players. Now it's going to go around and around, clockwise around the table, always starting from the player to the left of the dealer, which means I get last bid, which is very, very good in a hand like this. It puts the pressure on everyone else, and I can sit there and make the final decision as to whether I want it or not. Whoever does win the bid, they're going to take those cards. Now, this is where the game starts to get interesting, because as the game iterates across the rounds, you're going to find there's more reason to bid on certain sets. At the very beginning, you're kind of open-ended. You only care about the values. The colors don't matter so much to you. But you'll find that as you go through the game, you're going to want certain cards. If blue is currently over here, they really want to get at least one more in that color to be able to move up to the top and get those 20 bonus points. But going back to over here, when the next player takes their turn, they can go ahead and they put out one card. Maybe they put out two cards, and right now, by the way, these 5s are a little insane. They do not shuffled well. But right now, if they choose to play a third card, then this player won't even be able to bid on it, which starts introducing a degree of tension. Players can only have 5 cards every single round. So as players go ahead and play those cards, or as players start to deal cards up for bid, that will define what other players can do, and there might be even times where you can go ahead and get a hand for basically nothing, as players are locked out of trying to acquire those cards. And so that's going to introduce a degree of tension. Now you're going to go around and around until only one player has no card, does not have a full boat. When one player is left, they're simply going to draw cards from the rest of their deck over here, and just take those cards for free, but with no agency. All the 5s and 4s were at the top of the deck. It's a little crazy. But anyways, you're going to go ahead, and when only one player is remaining, they're going to fill their boat. They won't pay for the card, but they have no agency over controlling what goes into the boat. From there, players will move up these respective tracks. You'll go ahead and reward points for both the highest value boats, as well as for the second place and first place, and bonus points over there. That's a 1, 2, and 3 of how you score. And then you're going to go ahead and take all the cards back, re-deal them out, and continue to the next round. I should note that depending on the player count, you will be removing some cards from this deck over here. So you can see over here, that depending on the player count, you're removing different number of cards, and that does matter because there are times where you can simply choose not to bid, and too many cycles of that, and the deck might actually run out in a game. And if the deck runs out, so be it. Players won't get cards, so you need to be mindful of that when you pass up too quickly on various bidding options, because eventually, if there are no cards left, players simply won't get those cards to be able to go ahead and move up those tracks. That's basically how you play Medici. Do this across 3 rounds of play, see how high you score, see who is able to manipulate the bidding, spend the right amount of points at the right times, and see who's able to move forward in this game and get as many points as possible in Medici. Which brings us to a review, starting off with ease of play. Ease of play on this one is very straightforward. The game is a very straightforward auction game that has 3 rounds of play, a few things of note, but it's one of those games you can teach people and get them up and running in 5, maybe 10 minutes. You can walk through a sample hand, talk about the edge cases. This is a very straightforward, easy game to play, easy game to learn, and the actual game itself does depend on player count, but even if you're playing like a full 5-6 player game, because it does go all the way up to 6 players, it's still going to be coming in well under the hour. I'd say you're typically looking at 30 to 45. Obviously, games like this can stretch out a bit, especially if you have higher player counts or AP prone players, but it is one of those games that can move along fairly briskly. So it's a fast-paced, easy to learn, easy to teach auction game. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is going to be that first thing, the ease of teaching and playing. The fact that this game is so accessible means this game accommodates a wide variety of player counts. You can play this game from 2 to 6. I don't think 2 is as good, but I'd say even 3 is decent. 4 is where the game starts to shine. 4 and 5 is probably my favorite player count, and 6 is still accommodating. And so you have a wide variety of being able to play this game at different player counts while being able to easy to teach, easy to play, making it one of those good games to pull out, especially if you have a 6 players, you didn't really plan for it or whatever it is. It's one of those easy games to table that will play quickly and give people enough strategic decisions along the way. And there are a lot of ways to mess with people doing the auction bidding, which is arguably my favorite part of the strategy, where you're going to be trying to figure out what is it that I want for myself and how can I set others up so that they can't benefit from a good draw, letting me go ahead and get those for cheaper. A big part of the satisfaction for me in this game is about feeling that I didn't, not just that I paid for a hand that was worth it, that, I paid 15 for a hand that's going to give me 20 points, the trade-off's worth it, but rather trying to figure out a way to set up the other players so that I only have to pay 2 or 3 for a hand that's going to give me 20 points, or pushing other players into bad decisions because they have to stop you. There's a lot of ability to control for how the bidding is going to play out, which is very satisfying. I said the game gives you a lot of point optimization, trying to figure out where you're going to need the most points as the game progresses. While it starts off as a bit of a blank slate, as you get into round 2 and 3, and depending on how this board starts to develop, you'll find a lot of ways that you try to figure out, do I need to get ahead of someone else on that track? Do I need to go ahead and try to get 20 points in that color? There's a lot of ways to try to figure out what is the most valuable to you while being mindful of the other players and what they're going for. Pushing other players to spend more than they want to, even though you don't want that hand, can be very satisfying. Also can end up with you holding the bag on a bunch of cards you didn't care for when somebody eventually calls your bluff. As far as what I don't like in the game, first of all, I'd say the first round doesn't have nearly the same level of depth as rounds 2 and 3. Because of that blank slate aspect, the round 1's kind of just about trying to figure out what looks good overall. Round 2 and 3 starts to give you a lot more agency over figuring out what's good for you, what's good for others, and playing around that. So in a game that's only 3 rounds, I do feel the first round is significantly less satisfying than the subsequent rounds. I'll also say that the game just doesn't have a lot of variety to the experience. If you've watched my reviews in general, you know that I love variety to the experience, things that make the experience different different or change it up as I play it, and this is very straightforward. It's a very straightforward game that's easy to teach, easy to learn, easy to play, and again, straightforward games do make for easier to teach and easier to play games, but at the end of the day, the amount of different things happening here is not there. It's a one-trick pony that does auctions very well. What it does is it gives you a very closed system that works well, but ultimately, if you play this game again and again, you're kind of just playing the same game, trying to optimize slightly further. There's not a lot of room for growth or development in terms of how you're going to approach or play this game differently. As far as I can see, others not liking the game, first of all, you're gonna get screwed. You're gonna have other players who are messing you over, messing you out of bad hands. It's gonna be the time where someone forces you to take the hand that wasn't even good for you because you tried to ramp them up in points. This is a game that has as many feel-good moments as it does feel-bad moments, although feel-bad is relative to how you play games and how you enjoy those games. But if you're someone who doesn't like mean moments in the games, this game can absolutely have mean moments in the games. Also, because of how pure the game is, it can devolve to a math problem in the game. Meaning effectively, because there's so little other factors, it's very easy for players to simply min-max. Well, I'll get 5 points from here, 10 points from here, I'm going to go ahead and do this, so I'll pay 17 points. That kind of decision-making in a game this clean does happen, so that can be an issue both in terms of the AP prone aspect of things, but also just in terms of feeling like you're just min-maxing where to spend points to get the most points. Because everything is a little too obvious and clean, that can happen in the game. As far as final thoughts on this game, it's a very simple, clever auction game that works beautifully as a fast-paced auction game that works well at a variety of player counts. That's ultimately what Medici is. It is very good at what it's doing, but it does cap out as far as the type of game experience it can be because of how quick and clean it is. For me, this is a 3.5 out of 5. It's certainly enjoyable. It's certainly an easy game to table. It's one that if you are looking for a simple to learn, teach, play auction game that works well at a variety of player counts, this will have you covered. But if you're looking for something with a bit more meat to it, I think that Medici kind of caps out as far as what it's trying to do. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, I'll say that if you want something that's kind of in the same weight class, but with a bit more nuance or intricacy, from Reiner Knizia as well, High Society is an excellent auction game that's going to be a bit, well, kind of similar in terms of the weight class of the game, but I think it does a better job at feeling more variable as you play through it, possibly through the use of the special cards in the game. But if you really want to see Reiner Knizia's masterpiece in bidding, I highly recommend checking out Ra. Ra is also from Reiner Knizia. The most recent iteration of the game is from 20th Century Games, and it's going to give you that same delightful tension that Medici has. It has some of the same systems as far as having a single opportunity to bid, and the last player gets to get the final bid, but it does so giving you a lot more variety as far as the various tiles you're trying to acquire, giving you a lot more to consider, a lot less clean as far as the math goes. I think it really does do an excellent job of being a next step up in terms of the auction game experience. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.